This is IBM Museum. I don't think I've ever provided my real name on my YouTube channel, but for those of you that can read, it's not all that hard to figure out. But I think my friends knew, a lot of my longtime viewers did. My name is David Beam, and my YouTube channel has not been very active over the last 6 months. I intend this video to be a little bit of an update for that time period, but in particular over the last month. I've had the intent to be active with my YouTube channel, but really have not just had the energy or the uh, I had video topics laid out and just felt rather lethargic. Just didn't have the drive to go through there. Was feeling the effect of some health effects, and that just caused me. I mean, if you look behind me in my studio here, it's a little bit still of a disarray, even from prior videos. And so it's about 6 months ago that I went in, finally gaining a primary care physician, and was determined to have diabetes or be in a diabetic condition with high uh, blood glucose levels, and went through and was prescribed metformin, and then later on a cholesterol managing pill to go through there and to start treating that diabetes. But in the last month in particular, and I'll explain the reasons of why it looks like I got in this condition, to have the effects where a month ago, I was just getting checked out of a hospital stay of 4 days. And that actually was the first day was going into the ER for overnight into the next day and being transferred to a larger facility for 3 days. The reason for that was I was on the job, and I won't say collapsed, although I went to being in a non-responsive state. I just felt very lightheaded all of a sudden, and felt I needed to sit down. Going through and starting to lose consciousness, went through to lay down on the floor, and got up again and sat in the chair. And this is actually on the job, and I was actually in the best place to be for this sort of event to occur. What it was is my pulse rate dropped, my blood pressure just dropped. Very critical event. And but I was at our local public safety building, and going through and actually reviewing some security camera footage that we had. And so the secretary there at the police department, all she had to do was go through and open the door and summon the firefighting department um, that we have right next door. And so I was attended to very quickly, but it took a while to get me responsive in the chair. I went through and was taken by ambulance to the ER, um, where I went through. There was even the question of whether I would be airlifted out that night, which I tried to decline, and thankfully my vitals were good enough to where the hospital did not go through and override that to take me to a larger facility where they could care for me better. But was put on ground transportation the next day, and taken to a larger facility. It's amazingly of the same name, and in the city that I was born in years and years ago. but I was there being monitored for 3 days with that heart condition. And very sudden event. I had been in uh, good health recently. I mean, this is something that was really out of the blue. But the circumstances that caused that were ultimately me not caring for my diabetic condition well enough. There was some factors leading up to that. One was that I had a blood glucose meter that was reading high for months and months. I was going through and testing my blood, and I was going through and properly caring for my diabetes at that point. But the metformin was going through and making me to where I just didn't have the appetite. I was losing weight and thinking that that is otherwise a good condition. I wanted to go through and take off the pounds, and in older videos you can see me from the side, and I look so heavy. I look like I'm carrying that weight. And so rather unwisely, I went to the point where I just went along with losing that weight, of not having the appetite, of going through and often at times getting up in the morning, measuring my blood sugar levels, and going through taking the metformin and the cholesterol medication, and then not eating sometimes until lunch, and even sometimes they're skipping meals. That breakfast and that lunch, not eating until afternoon of the day and evening, um, and never feeling really otherwise nauseous or lightheaded. I just didn't have that appetite. And I had a later appointment with my primary care physician, and since I'd had blood tests done the previous day, he looked at the numbers that I was recording from the cheap glucose meter, and he says, "No, those are wrong. Your meter's reading high." And the meter I had actually was reading about 25, 30, 35 points higher than what my glucose levels were. And so I got a more accurate meter. And of course, it showed lower numbers. I realized or thought that I was taking better care of myself than I actually was, with lower glucose levels measured in the morning after I would get up, and still did not revert to going through and resuming those critical meals in the morning and at lunchtime. I got down very close to 200 pounds, the weight I am now, which I haven't been in decades. And uh, the night before this incident, I bought a quart of orange juice and really didn't think of the sugar level in it. Consumed that over several hours, and the next morning I was getting up very often to go to the bathroom, was not rehydrating with other fluids, and just was dehydrated. I had not eaten, but felt kind of bad, and then got up in the about the middle of the afternoon to get in to know where I knew I did have that work, where I had to go through and review that video footage, and that's when the event occurred. Now the ultimate prognosis off of that in this last month, that, like I say, of being discharged from the hospital after that 4-day stay, the actual prognosis is good. I do want to tell my viewers up front that in the end, the diagnosis, I had a lot of tests run on me that really didn't show problems. The ultimate issue was me just not going through and in the proper diet to go through, and skipping meals like that went through and made me lightheaded and had the effects of that. The my body's a kind of a bad, in a bad way. It goes through, and if I feel that I'm going through something, it can actually give me symptoms and make me feel worse, and cause me the unease and the stress of thinking that something is critically wrong. As I say, the test here, they've come back with the results that it looks like, as long as and as my primary care physician, that I've got to go through and I've got to properly treat my diabetes and go through and be careful in these situations. But there looks to be no long-standing effects from that very critical thing happening to me. I do have a loop monitor implant now that they went through at the other facility, the larger facility, went through and inserted. And there's been no detection of any values outside normal conditions. I have a rather great blood pressure readings. My pulse rate can drop when I'm at in a reclined position or resting, can drop into a bradycardic condition, which is a pulse rate below 60. But as I'd like to joke, I mean, even with my loss of weight, gained down to about 200 pounds, I do have the pulse rate and the blood pressure of a young athlete. I don't know why I couldn't have got this 20 years ago, but as long as there's no other conditions of lightheadedness or anything else like that, the bradycardia is not necessarily something to worry about. But I do go through, and I do carry a oximeter now. I go through and check my pulse rate and blood oxygen saturation levels, or oxygen saturation levels on a regular basis. I do carry a blood pressure cuff around with me and check my blood pressure on a regular basis. Those numbers are good. My vitals are good. So I've learned what caused the health condition to affect just the lack of energy, of the lethargicness, of showing up to where wasn't wanting to do videos or other activities. And it's my intention, of course, now that with the good prognosis, I want to go through and get my channel back active again. And in particular, cresting over 2,000 subscribers. I'm hoping that that'll increase that subscriber base by more than while it was inactive, about an average of about 1 subscriber per day. So I'm going to get back into doing videos. I'm going to actually do a live stream for the schedule I had established before on Saturday mornings, which was 10 a.m. my local time. That's Mountain Standard Time, and that's GMT -7 for the rest of the world outside that time zone, to really know where that place is in their time zone. And I'll, of course, go through and I'll schedule for this upcoming Saturday and very soon, and with about a day of lead time before I would go live in this case. And so my subscribers can get that notification to catch that live stream and go a little bit further. Now, what I did in that first night at the ER, I did take a picture, and because I knew for the cost that I wanted to get a fundraiser started to cover any cost that going through what an event like that would mean. And thankfully, my insurance has taken care of most of that, or most of that cost. I mean, the enormous amount of funds that takes for an event like that. And the second hospital that I was in, they actually were the first to send me a bill. They did an estimate within just a few days of me getting released, and told me if I paid on that day, I'd get a 20% discount. And that number was about $1,750 was their estimate. And I went through, and when I called in to check, I was told by the automated process that the bill was zero. Obviously, something where the insurance was starting to be processed. But I did want to check with a human and found out. But I went through and said, yeah, I want to get it established. And I did call in ahead of that for that 20% discount, because I'm interested in getting whatever cut rate I can. So just make a note on the account that that I called in, and I would have paid if that bill would have been due, or any bill in the future that comes up. I want to go through and pay that promptly to get a discount for that. As I said, the insurance has been very good coverage. They went through, and it's just been a fabulous amount. I've been glad to have medical insurance. I realized that if this would have happened at another time frame in my life, I would have been in a bad way to respond to it. But so most of most of that billing taken care of, I went through and I edited the fundraiser. And I'll provide a link in the video description for this. That I went through and I've scaled my fundraiser back. My intent right now is actually to go through, and I've had friends respond that have paid about a quarter of the amount in the end that the insurance did not cover. I've cut back the fundraiser to about $2,000, which so far the contributions have been a little bit more than $500. And if you're willing to go through there and help me out a little bit, that is fantastic. I'm not even looking at going past the goal. All I'm looking at is just covering that those costs that I would have otherwise, of course always as unexpected in this case too, past what I can normally account for bills. What I would say, if you're doing it from a perspective of to try and help me and go through for the video production level I'm doing on this channel, or you believe that I'm filling that void and going through and producing videos alike. Certainly, I talk about becoming a patron of my channel and going through, and with that goal in mind. But going through and I have this need at the moment, or this desire to be able to cover what my cost would be for this event. Any donations are appreciated. And I'll answer further questions on that Saturday live stream that I'm going to set up, and we can go a little bit further with this. I'm always open to my viewers and my friends to let them know what I would be going through at the time, and the intent of what I'm looking for in asking people for donations. But certainly, if you see this as a worthwhile cause that you'd like to contribute, by all means, please go ahead. I'm going to go through. I'll close out this video to get it online. I appreciate all the viewers I have, and I look forward to providing more video content on my YouTube channel, bringing it back active. This is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.